40. "What is this all about?" I asked Aln Mndlshn when we were out of the cave and in the forest. "Do you feel like taking a chance?" Aln Mndlshn asked me. "What do you mean?" "I've got a feeling about the Wuzzle and the Nafsulian pirates Manny, Mo, and Jack," he said. "I think we may be able to straighten out this whole thing for the Wakawakians, but if I'm wrong, there may be some danger. Are you interested?" "Well, sure," I said. "Anything to make this adventure a little more interesting." "Great," Aln Mndlshn said. "Now we've got to work fast. I'd like to get this whole thing wound up today. First, let's find a patch of sun in the forest." We found a spot where the sun was shining through the trees and making a bright place on the forest floor. Aln Mndlshn stood in the middle of the patch of sunlight. "I'm going to tune back to Hogborough, count to 30, and then rematerialize here. Keep your eyes on the spot, and after I come back, tell me exactly what you saw." Aln Mndlshn faded away, and I was alone in the forest. It was eerie. I counted to 30 in my head, and at the count of 30, Aln Mndlshn began to reappear in the sunny spot. "How was that?" he asked. "Just fine," I said. "You vanished and reappeared." "Now, Aln Mndlshn, I'm going to try to do the same thing while standing in the shadows. Watch closely." Aln Mndlshn stepped into a shady place and faded and returned. "Well," he said, "what did you see this time?" "You didn't vanish completely," I said. "I could sort of see your outline if I squinted a little." "Just as I thought," Aln Mndlshn said. "Now we know why the Wuzzle doesn't like the shadowy places. This invisibility thing only works in bright light or total darkness. Remember in Herschelsheimer's Oriental Gardens? Lance Herschelsheimer said he could still see us when we tuned ourselves into the Hogborough plane. He said we were in like thick places in the air." "Does this mean that there are sort of ghost images of us walking around Hogborough?" I asked. "Do you think that that's permanent? I mean, when we go home, will there be ghosts of us here in Waka Waka?" "I think we aren't really all together in either place," Aln Mndlshn said. When we really get to go home, I think we have to go to Herschelsheimer's Oriental Gardens in order to get all the way back into the Hogborough plane. The same way we got here. We can't totally get into Waka Waka because we don't really belong. Because we really belong in the Hogborough plane. "But Lance Herschelsheimer is from the Hogborough plane, and he's totally here, and he can't get back," I said. "Yes," Aln Mndlshn said, "and that worries me. I wouldn't want to get stuck here with the stupid Fleejiks and all that. Maybe Rolls-Up will be able to tell us something about that." "Rolls-Up?" I asked. "Yes, that's the next step," Aln Mndlshn said. "I'm going to talk to Rolls-Up. He may help us. He and I are both Martians, after all." That was one of the things I liked about Aln Mndlshn. You never knew when he was going to come up what he was going to come up with next. We went back into the cave. Aln Mndlshn asked Lance Herschelsheimer to call all his cave mates together. "Look," Aln Mndlshn said, "if the Wuzzle were taken care of, do you think you could handle Manny, Mo, and Jack?" "I don't know," Lance Herschelsheimer said. "Nafsulians are pretty tough. They never give up. Even when they pretend to surrender, they still have a lot of fight left in them. There's only one way to be sure that a Nafsulian is finished." "And what's that?" Aln Mndlshn asked. "Well, there's one ultimate Nafsulian gesture of surrender," Lance Herschelsheimer said. "If a Nafsulian removes and replaces his hat continually while rubbing his belly with a circular motion, that is a gesture of surrender which no Nafsulian can retract." Aln Mndlshn and I looked at each other. "I can just about promise you a complete, unconditional surrender if you will just cooperate," Aln Mndlshn said. "Now, how many Wakawakians live here in this forest?" "Oh, I'd say about 20,000, Lance Herschelsheimer said. "Can you spread the message to all of them?" Aln Mndlshn asked. "Oh, yes, we could do that," Lance Herschelsheimer said. "Okay," Aln Mndlshn said. "Tell everyone to get a piece of wood suitable for making a torch. When you hear the electric horn calling you to the city of Lenny, everybody has to turn up with a burning torch. Tell everybody to pick up the rottenest, smokiest wood they can find. Will you do it?" "How will we know if this will work?" Lance Herschelsheimer asked. "Because it rolls up, and the Martian High Commissioner is going to give my plan his full approval," Aln Mndlshn said. "If someone will just take me to him now." Apparently, I wasn't supposed to go with Aln Mndlshn to see Rolls-Up. This bugged me a little bit. I thought he was carrying this bit a little far about being a Martian. I would have liked to seen the Martian High Commissioner too. As it was, Aln Mndlshn was led off by Lance Herschelsheimer and some other Wakawakians to the cave where Rolls-Up was staying. The rest of the people from Lance Herschelsheimer's cave hurried off to spread the word through the forest. I kept myself busy collecting torchwood. I was on my own for about an hour. After I got the torchwood collected, I turned back to Hogborough just to see what was happening. It wasn't any more interesting there, and besides, it was cold, so I turned back to Waka Waka and just hung around the cave. Finally, I heard voices and people crashing through the undergrowth, and Aln Mndlshn and Lance Herschelsheimer, Eugene, and some other Wakawakians came into view. It was interesting, Aln Mndlshn said. I learned a lot. I had a private audience with Rolls-Up. Nobody else was allowed in, so you wouldn't have been able to see him if you'd come along. It was nice of Aln Mndlshn to at least mention that. I got over feeling mad at him for not taking me with him. Rolls-Up is all for my plan, and he's going to help us. Also, I found out something even more important, Aln Mndlshn said. If anybody comes to Waka Waka and stays a certain number of hours, he gets stuck here. How many hours? I asked. Rolls-Up isn't sure, Aln Mndlshn said. He's been here before and stayed up to 8 hours. Then you have to stay away for at least a year and sort of build up an immunity. So I guess we can figure that up to 8 hours is safe, at least for Rolls-Up and me. I don't know if it's the same for an Earth person. Maybe you should go back now, and I'll try and bring off my plan without you. Why don't you cut out that Martian stuff, I said. This is no time for it. Thanks, Leonard, Aln Mndlshn said. You're a brave kid. We've been here for about 5 hours, so we'd better wind things up in a hurry so we can get home. By the way, Aln Mndlshn smiled, Rolls-Up and I took care of some personal business, too. The truth is, I hadn't always known what Aln Mndlshn was talking about. Sometimes I thought he was a little crazy. For example, with his business about being a Martian. But he was my friend, and I usually just went along with whatever he wanted to do. Now, here's the plan, Aln Mndlshn said. By this time, everybody has got their torches and instructions. Right now, the word is spreading that Rolls-Up has approved my plan. They all respect him a lot, and I think they'll go through with it. Even though they're frightened of Manny, Mo, and Jack, the Nafsulian bandits. They're really sick and tired of getting pushed around and not having all the fleegics they want. I'm sure you realize that we can get Manny, Mo, and Jack to make the Nafsulian gesture of surrender, taking off their hats and rubbing their bellies, by using the Klugarsh mind control. Sure, I realize that, I said. Well, Rolls-Up says that once we get them to surrender, he can transport them out of here and back to their own existential plane. I thought if you stayed here more than 8 hours, you couldn't get out. That's Martians and Earth people. Nafsulians can go anywhere, Aln Mndlshn said. All you have to do is get Manny, Mo, and Jack to summon all the people of Wakawakians to the city of Lenny. Then we neutralize the Wazzle, we get them to surrender by using the Klugarsh mind control, and the whole thing is wrapped up. Wait a minute, I said. How are we going to do all those things? How will we get them to summon all the people? What if we can't get them to surrender by the Klugarsh mind control? We don't know if it works on Nafsulians. And what if the Wuzzle doesn't want to be neutralized? If any of those things happen, we can just tune ourselves back into the Hogborough plane and never come back here again. Because if I'm wrong about any of this, and any of the Wakawakians survive, they'll never get over being mad at us. Look, I said, I think we better talk this over some more. There's no time, Aln Mndlshn said. We've only got 3 hours to get this done. Then we have to get back to Herschelsheimer's Oriental Gardens to make the complete return to our existential plane. And if it's a good half-hour walk to Lenny, we'd better start moving right now.